all the holidays and celebrations that we have, today, Mother's Day, is to me the one that is most significant, special, and even sacred. If you compare it to the other holidays, of course, most people look at Christmas and Easter as being very special, but it kind of differs if you're not a child or not a Christian, which some of us may or may not be. And it's hard to not look at it as just another day for us to go out and spend money and buy gifts and flowers. So that's how I look at that. There's, of course, Memorial Day and Veterans Day, which this has taken on a rather special meaning since 9/11, since the public basically didn't contribute in the war except with their money. There was no commitment or sacrifice. So a lot of people take those two holidays as a good chance to cheer and root for the troops. That's the way we can contribute. And then, that's okay. Then there's President's Day. President's Day was pretty easy back when there were 2 days, when there's Lincoln and Washington, two great leaders. It's kind of interesting and great holidays to me. But now, since it's President's Day, that means we Dems have to include Bush and Nixon. And the Republicans have to, they have Obama and Clinton. So President's Day is an awful holiday. Then Halloween. Halloween used to be really great back in the olden days because there were parades that went on downtown Main Street. And virtually everybody, even very sophisticated citizens and businessmen, they would all dress up silly and go down and be foolish. And for kids, it was terrific because it was a day when you could be mischievous and you could go, do soap on the windows of that cranky old man who was bothering you in the neighborhood. So it's really a good day, but that's changed quite a bit. And it now even seems that like trick-or-treating is on its way out. It certainly seems so. We don't get that candy anyway. Then, of course, there's Thanksgiving. Well, no, there's actually one. There used to be a May Day. And May Day, I thought it was a terrific time. It was springtime, sun was out, it was lovely. You go out and play around the maypole. But that was associated with labor, so they actually dismissed that holiday because it was communistic. Labor, communistic, so it disappeared from us. It really gets down to then, there's Thanksgiving and there's Mother's Day. And Thanksgiving, I view as sort of, that's a family day. It's a family weekend, and you just have a great time eating and visiting with your family. So that leaves us with this wonderful day, Mother's Day. Just a second. Today's program is really pretty simple. It's the obligatory flowers and poetry, and in recognition to honor all those who mother, especially those who bear the brunt of hurtful policies or who are weighed down by stigma in our culture. We celebrate trans moms, immigrant moms, single moms, lesbian moms, young and old moms, and as Barb showed in her beautiful little display here, actually anyone who mothers a pet, we're including you in it. You're the mothers that we're honoring today. At this time, we've got a prayer that I'd like to ask Molly to read.
For the mothers who have sat in rocking chairs for hours on end, soothing crying babies who can't be comforted. For the mothers who show up at work with spit up in their hair and milk stains on their blouses and diapers in their purse. and for those who provide what mothering they can from far away. For the mothers who run carpools and make cookies and sew Halloween costumes, and all the mothers who don't. For the mothers who give birth to babies they'll never see, and the mothers who give those babies homes. For the mothers who yell at their kids in the grocery store and even swat them in despair when they stomp their feet and scream for ice cream before dinner. And for all the mothers who count to 10 instead, but understand how child abuse happens. For the mothers who teach their children to tie their shoelaces before they start school. And for all the mothers who opt for Velcro instead. For the mothers who teach their sons to cook and their daughters to sink a jump shot. For the mothers whose children have gone astray, who can't find the words to reach them. For the mothers who taught their children to be peaceful and now pray they come home safely from a war. For the mothers who have lost their child in a store and hug them when they've been found. And for those who have lost their child to death and can no longer hug them. For the mothers of disabled children who love them no less and who use every extra moment to advocate for them. For the lesbian mothers struggling to give their children a normal life while explaining why people are telling them their moms aren't normal. For the mothers living on the edge of society, struggling to raise their children with love while facing the walls of poverty, racism, violence, and fear. For the mothers who have sent their children off into adulthood, only to now be raising those same children's children. For working mothers and for stay-at-home moms who have earned the title working mothers. For single mothers and married mothers, mothers with money, mothers without, for young mothers stumbling through diaper changes and sleep deprivation, and mature mothers learning to let go. Let us give thanks. Let us love and celebrate them all, and let us work toward a world that ensures that every woman's choices are honored and every mother is given the means to do her job well. In this way will we all, mothers and fathers, be able to send forth our children as living arrows in gladness and wisdom and peace.
Amen. We've got a couple of things we're going to do today, but mostly it's going to be a participation by you folks. We know I've asked several of you to speak about how you feel about your mother or some other mother. But before we do that, we want to give out some special awards. And the first one will be to the mother who has been a mother the longest time. Anybody for 30?
It's Joan.
Joan, this has to be Joan's award.
That's for how long she's been a mother.
So how long have you been a mother? How long have you been a mother? You can't hear. Okay.
Don't,
This is-
don't tell them how long she's been.
Just for you, darling. Just for you. Very good. We've got another award we'd like to give out. And that will be, that will be the most recent mother. Who is the most recent mother?
My name is Valerie. She's in the nursery.
Okay, Valerie, we can give this to you if you will give this to Valerie.
I'd be happy. Well, depending on what it is.
But you may want it, you may want it. It's Panera card. And we'd like to give out an award to the smartest mom. And the way we're going to determine that is, do any of you know who founded Mother's Day? Who founded Mother's Day? And when?
Julia Howe. She's the one that also did the
Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Battle Hymn of the Republic.
And that was in 1972. It got started, she was a real abolitionist and activist.
You mean 1872?
What did I say, 1972? 18, yeah. Hello. 1872. And she did it to form a day where mothers could do things, get out in the street and be activists. That was the main idea.
And she was a Unitarian.
And that's the key thing. There you go. Well, you get an award for saying that.
She was a Unitarian. Blessed woman.
And a peace activist, time she declared.
And a peace act, absolutely, yes, very good. So at this time, let's see, we'd like to give an award to each and every mother. So I'd like to pass out, let you pick a flower as you award.
Why don't they come up?
Okay,
We'll talk, we're on these steps here.
well,
Oh, okay.
yeah, let me pass them around.
Figure it out, long ago.
You have a mother, please? Huh? Please, would you take one of the flowers?
We're all taking photos.
Please, yes. Okay.
I am a mom.
There you go, good.
I took my shoes off when we hanged them out.
There you go, good.
Happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Pick one, Mama.
I guess we can take all our. What's your favorite? They were all sharks. Well, I think we're doing, he got me mixed up, but. I think if you have a mother, you're supposed to take flowers. I think you got a mother, don't you? Sure. Well, I mean.
We've got one last award to pass out, and that is for the mother with the furriest friend. Oh, the mother of the furriest friend. Who would that be?
The one that has the ego, stepmother.
Most dependents.
I don't know.
And I will take the ones left to some of the mothers who were not able to be here today, but we'll take flowers to them. Okay, so now at this time, I'd like to ask any of you to care to come up and share. Say no more than about 5 minutes max, but to come and talk about either memories of your mom or something you want to say.
Thank you. As many of you know, I lost my mother last August. She was 99 years old, and I was extremely fortunate that we had her that long. She and Tom became great friends, and I think in a lot of ways she became the mother he never had. Mother was the mother to every child in the neighborhood. My high school friends would come to visit her after I went away to college. And the young people that come to visit me still consider her the closest thing to a mother. they had after their mother died. I only hope that in my years coming up, that I can instill that kind of love, devotion, and let people know that no matter what they do, they're loved and they are appreciated for who they are.
Well, I want to say just a few things about my mom. My mother and father both died very early. I was just a young man in my 20s when my mother died. And her name, by the way, was Lorena Gertrude Butler. And she lived up in Bradford County in a little place called Westview. And I get most of my genes from her side of the family. I look exactly like my grandfather and do very much now. And the problem was he was 6'2" and I was supposed to be 6'4", and something happened. I got stuck somewhere. But anyhow, I remember in my high school days, I had a pretty hard time with knowing who I was and where I was going and that sort of thing. And there were times I thought that I was really not even part of the family, that, you know, I was, who are these people I'm living with? I often felt that. And like I say, I had a difficult time. And my mom and pop, they worked. They were very poor. My mother took in wash, and my father worked for 50 cents a day picking corn from sun up to sundown. That was back in the Depression days. And there were 6 of us. They had 6 kids. But when on my 5th birthday, they were able to somehow buy a bakery here in Owensboro. So we moved here on my 5th birthday to Owensboro. And they were able to, financially, they ended up with a hell of a lot of money. They did very well. But I, as a kid, felt, well, there were 6 of us. They worked night and day. And I often felt I was sort of ignored. This is why I'm the show-off I am today. It still affects me. But unfortunately, I didn't quite understand the whole thing until later. And by that time, my folks were already dead, so I wasn't able to tell my mother that I had finally figured it out and that she was a great, loving person. And I love her very much now. That's my story.
Well, like most of you, I have a good mother. I have a very good mother. I have a mother that loves me, and I was the compliant child until the day I had to tell her I was a lesbian with 3 children, and that was a really tough time for her. Very, very tough. But my mom is hard as a pine knot, and she's tough, and she does everything that she can to be accepting. Now, it's still, whether she owns it or not, it's still difficult for her. But she loves me, and I know that she loves me. I can tell it in her voice and see it in her eyes. And, but, you know, she went through a son with drugs, a daughter that, you know, daughters that were, you know, anywhere and everywhere. And then this came along in their 60s. So I think she thought everything was cool and she was going to ride it out with grandchildren, and then, you know, I surprised her. but I do honor my mom, and I do love her, and she does love me, and that's what I'm thankful for.
Carson, do you want to say something?
My mom, she is the nicest mom I have. She sets a very good example for me, and she's raised me since I was born. She taught me a lot of good things, including manners. Sometimes she'll give you timeouts and other punishments, and she has to do it. That's her duty as a mom. And there's sometimes I don't understand why she gives me punishments, but I'm pretty sure I understand when I get older. Sometimes I feel like I'll be alone, and I personally think it's okay for me to have a bedtime alone sometimes, but I never forget how much I still care for my mom and my dad. And I feel like they're just fine together. And if you ever pass away, Mom, I will always know you're with me. I love you, Mom.
He's got to figure it out already, doesn't he?
Avery, do you want to read yours?
Well, I don't know what to say. It's kind of brought me up. I want to thank Mom for her patience and dealing with me through my teenage years. I had a difficult time. And I also want to thank my grandma. Thank two moms, because they're both here today. You, Jay. Well, yeah, I want to thank Mom for putting up with me through my, middle school years. It's kind of really annoying, and she's really patient and really nice and really sweet, and I'm glad to have her as a mom. And yeah, Grandma too. She's really wise and blissful and happy all the time, and she's a really sweet grandma. Yeah.
I just want to honor my mom. She's not here, but I am very lucky that I still have her. Don't get to see her as much as I'd like to, but she's a wonderful mom. She has never, ever turned her back on me, regardless of all the bad choices I've made in my younger days, I'll say. And I also appreciate she's a wonderful, loving, nurturing woman. And she's not a saint. And for that, I thank her too, because she has modeled for me not just loving and nurturing, but her learning to say no, her self-care, the fact that being a mother doesn't mean complete self-sacrifice all the time, that we have needs and it's okay to not be a saint. And I appreciate those lessons from her as well, the way she's modeled that. So just wanted to throw that.
I guess I'll start with my grandmother. Her name is Edna Ruth, and we know her as Marty. She lives here in Owensboro, and from time to time people still approach me and they talk about my grandmother as Miss Wilkie, and they want to say how blessed they were as a child for her being similar to your mother, kind of the neighborhood mom, and they still talk about her biscuits and gravy, which she doesn't make for us quite as much as she used to, but she used to watch me and my brother and sister every Monday after school, and she fries chicken and pork chops and green beans and biscuits and gravy and all that good stuff. And that's my dad's mom. My mom's mom was also named Ruth, and I think very highly of these women, and Valerie thinks very highly of my Marnie, and she was kind enough to name our daughter after my grandmother's. Which brings me to my mother, who who isn't here this morning, but we just left there. She was kind enough to watch over Ruth and takes every opportunity she can to do that. And I just want to thank her for all of the patience and understanding she showed me growing up. There were many times when I didn't agree with her, but I always thought she had a handle on the situation. Carson, if you could cover your ears just for a moment. What I'm now learning is that oftentimes she was making it up as she went, but it also, it always seemed very thoughtful and planned, and for that I thank her. And then, finally, and most importantly, Valerie, I've told her this a number of times. I don't think I can ever say it enough, and I hope she can never hear it enough. I have never been more proud of another person than the day that you gave birth to Ruth. And at that point in time, she'd been a mother for 9+ years, but I had not been a father until that day. Not a biological father. Carson is obviously my son, and many of you guys know that story. That's for another day. But I have never been more proud of another individual. She was in labor for 27 hours at home. And it was heart-wrenching and excruciating, and I hope you never have to go through anything like that again. But it's been nothing but joy since Ruth has blessed both our lives, and I thank you for that. And I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
That's something Abby would like for me to read.
Abby wanted me to read this. She doesn't want to come down. So it's called "Things I Love About My Mom" by Abby Bell. My mom is sweet. My mom is kind. My mom is beautiful. My mom is mine. She doesn't judge. She doesn't hold a grudge. She is smart and she loves with all her heart. I love her and she loves me. We are two pods in a pea. We are so different, yet so alike. My mom is one of a kind. That's what makes her unique. There is a million other things I love about my mom, but sadly I'm running out of paper and time. So goodbye and farewell for today. I love you, Mom, and happy Mother's Day. Abby Goodall.
I want you to picture this. My mother was a farm lady. They married quite young. She didn't even finish high school. They were married for 2 years and lived in a little cottage as a tenant farmer. And that's where she gave birth to me. My aunt was a nurse and came and helped with the delivery. She was a very frail lady, very small. Didn't take me long to be able to fill her shoes because I had number 10s and she had number 6s. But Mom, if you could just look at the little poem that's on the front of the bulletin, it's almost like it was written for my mom. My mom kept a garden in the heart, and she also was very good. Everything she poked in the ground, it grew and was beautiful. She planted all the good things that gave my life its start. She turned me to the sunshine and encouraged me to dream. She said, Barbara, there's nothing that you can't do. If you think about it, you can create it. Fostering and nurturing the seeds of self-esteem. And when the winds and the rain came, she protected me enough, but not enough that I would not become and stand up strong and tall. Her constant love, the good examples always taught me right from wrong. And that was certainly a challenge because I was always doing things that was not acceptable. One of the things that she would say is, Barbara, don't do anything that you wouldn't want me to be standing next to you with. Well, I can close the door and do other things without her knowing it. Marked for my markers for my pathway that will last a lifetime long. I am my mother's garden. I am her legacy. And I hope today she feels the love reflected back from me. The other day I was sitting in the kitchen feeding my great-granddaughter. And you talk about sort of like deja vu. It was almost as if I became my mother. And then Allie was me. And it is so intriguing as you become more mature with gray hair and everything that you can sit and see 3 generations of your mother being transferred. And for Mom, I really appreciate all that you gave me and all that I have become. Thank you.
Sorry about that. That was stupid, missing the step.
Oh, it wasn't. It was just a dangerous place in here. It wouldn't be down here.
This is why we need our own place.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
That's rich.
Well, I just want to say that this is not only for my mother, but my grandmother, Richardson, my great-grandmother, Ramsey, and all the other mothers up the line. Is that on? If there's a stronger love than a mother for her children, I'm not sure I've ever seen it. With hindsight, maybe I did with Edna putting up with me for 57 years. But as a strong love, mother to child. And it reminds me of something that I know all of you are familiar with. But first, just a brief history lesson. Back until from about the 1900s to about 60s or so, the major means of transportation was bus. All the county seats had buses going to them, and people would even go into town riding a bus to shop and ride a bus back. Of course, when we all got cars in the 60s or so, the buses pretty well fell out of favor. But my granddad run his business for some. Okay, thank you. I think I can. My granddad run his business for a quarter of a century out of a Greyhound bus, essentially. If you needed a long trip, he would take a train. Otherwise, everybody knew about when the bus would come by, and so you'd be out and the bus would stop. Well, now there's a little song that I know all of you know, but I think it's very appropriate today. Tie a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. I'll be home around 3. Now, what this is about, I think it was supposed to be based in Texas. His son had been in prison for 3 years, and he didn't know whether he should go home or not. So he wrote home and said, if it's okay for me to come home, tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. Well, before he got even near home, he saw some yellow down the road. And as he got closer, he saw every tree in the yard had a yellow ribbon. The fence posts had a yellow ribbon. Posts that supported the porches around the house had yellow ribbons. He knew he was loved and it was okay to come home. So he reached up and pulled the cord that rung the bell by the driver that said, "This is where I want to get off." Now I think that is an excellent way, and it's a very lovely song. It must be 100 years old, but it still says such a message. Tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you. Perfect, good.
Yes. I'd like to honor both my mother and my grandmother. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was growing up, when I felt like my parents didn't understand me, Granny did. You know? There's so much that they passed on. My mother came from almost dirt, and my grandparents too. But of all the attributes that my mother had, I want to thank her for her courage and to do what is right. She more or less instilled that into me. She said it doesn't matter if you're the minority or if you're just one. You have to do what is right. And I can remember her going with me to the school board and talking to the superintendent because I felt I was right. But I wouldn't have had courage unless Mama was there with me. I had my mother until my 60s. And Eva Atkins put on Facebook yesterday something I'll just paraphrase. She said, "I miss my mother. It's been a while since she's passed away, but she'll never leave me. Sometimes I see her smile. Sometimes I see her scowl. Sometimes I hear her call me by all three names. All I have to do is look in the mirror and catch a glimpse of Mother and say thank you."
My mom's a remarkable woman. She's lived a very rich life. She's traveled around the world and been through divorce and been through all kinds of stuff. It's amazing how much we are our mother and our father, and how much of that, I mean, obviously, biologically, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for our parents. And we are just a continuation of our parents physically, but also our personality, I think, is shaped probably in most cases more by our mothers because they spent the most time with us. And I'm very thankful for the joy of life that my mom's instilled in me and the drive. You know, she always pushed me. Lots of good character traits, and I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. And I also appreciate my wife for all she's instilled in my children. And you know, I don't know what kind of shape they'd be in if it was just me raising them. Probably not very good shape. But I appreciate it.
youngest of 5 children. And way before I came along, before I think even my parents were married, my mom went to cosmetology school. She wanted to do hair. She loved it. She told me stories about having green hair and blue hair and orange hair and all sorts of things she'd done to herself while practicing, that kind of thing. I remember some really bad fights with my mother. She would pull me in the bathroom and attempt to brush my hair and comb my hair and make it look all pretty and feminine and everything, and I was just like, I didn't want any part of that. I just would fight her. You know, finally she would just say, all right, get out of here. You know, she'd let me get out of the bathroom. One time, she took me to a beauty salon, and I know I sat for 2 hours in this chair because I was going to have my picture taken. You know, I had to be beautiful. And probably in first grade, and I sat for 2 hours in this beautician's chair, and I had what looked like hamburger buns on the side of my head. I was Princess Leia before Princess Leia was around. But you know, I went and had my picture taken, and probably an hour my hair was completely destroyed, and my mother was just like so disappointed that I had destroyed my hair. But my hair never mattered to me like my mother's hair mattered to her. So I went through a series of bad permanents because my hair is totally straight, and she just wanted me to have this wavy hair, beautiful hair, and you know, she'd give me a permanent just in the front part of my head, and you know, it was really bad between my mom and myself regarding my hair. But, first time I had my hair cut really short like this, I was probably about 36, and she didn't like it, and she didn't tell me why. She might have thought it made me look too whatever. You can just put the adjective in there whatever you want to think. At one point, my mom shaved her head because she believed that if she shaved her head, her hair would grow in curly. She talked about this for years and years, and I called her on the phone. I said, what are you doing? She goes, I'm going to shave my head. And I said, you're going to what? She goes, I'm going to shave my head. And I said, all right, I'll be over. So I went over, and we're in her bathroom, and you know, we had her shaved as slick as a cue ball. I mean, it was slick, it's like a seal skin, you know. It did not grow in curly. It went straight again. But at least she did it and tried it. She was convinced. But my mother lived in an era where wigs were popular. You know, she had a series of wigs, and one time I was over there. She goes, "I'm going to buy you a wig," and I said, "Do I look like I'm losing my hair? Or, I mean, I have a lot of hair. We all do." She goes, "No, but you never know when you might get up late and just want to throw a wig on, you know, to go somewhere." And I graciously declined that. I said, "I don't really want a wig, Mom, but thanks." After she passed away, when we were going through some of her things, I found several wigs that were hers, and I just could not part with them. I kept them for several years. Before I moved to Kentucky about 7 years ago, I was going through some things, and I found that bag of wigs, and I knew that it was time, that I could part with them, and everything was okay. You know, I love you, Mom, but I'm not going to keep these wigs anymore. But you know, I love you. And I mean, I hope I haven't painted a picture like my mom was all, what word am I looking for? Cosmetic and no substance, because that's not really true. She was very into her looks and how she looked, but the one thing she always said to me over and over again, and I didn't understand what it meant when I was small, but as I've grown up, I understand what it means. She always said, and it's an old adage, she said, beauty is as beauty does. And you can be the most beautiful woman in the world, appearance-wise, but if you're ugly inside and you don't treat people right in your area, it doesn't matter what you look like. So as I've grown up, I've appreciated that more and more. Thanks, Mom.
It's not on, so I'm going to try to talk loud. When I imagine my mother, I can just, for some reason, the face plant always comes to mind. I was always the child, she was going like this. Like, even when I was as young as I can remember, I was always the troublemaker, and my sister was the good one, and I was always the one into something or doing something she told me not to do on purpose, just to do it. So I see this permanent indentation of finger marks in my mother's forehead, and so my story's kind of like Pam's. She's Southern Baptist, and I married my friend who I went to church with, and we were married for 12 years, and we were very much loved him, and we were friends, but there came a point in my life where I could not be who I wasn't anymore. And I had to tell my mother that I was 30 years old with 3 children and I was a lesbian. I loved a woman, and she mourned me. She mourned. That was her reaction, was mourning the relationship that we were going to have in heaven. She was completely and utterly just in mourning. She wore black. She cried all the time. She was convinced that we were never going to see each other ever again in the next life because I was going to hell. And it's taken almost 4 years for there to be this remarkable. My mother is a history and criminal justice major, and she's a very historical woman. And one day, I broke her heart. I called her a bigot, and I said, "I'm sorry, Mother. Is your bigotry showing?" And she said that was the worst thing that you could call anyone ever, was a bigot. And after I broke her heart and I called her a bigot, something happened. And she started to open her mind, and she started to open her heart to the fact that this wasn't a phase, some phase that I was going through that I always went through. I really love a woman. And she's just a woman. She's just another person. And that doesn't mean that we're never going to see each other again when I die. And when she dies. And she's made this remarkable turnaround. And she's opened her heart. And she's opened our family. And she started accepting the fact that I'm truly and utterly in love with a woman. And she started loving who I love, and she just threw all these preconceived notions down, and it's a beautiful thing. And we have this new growing relationship that I didn't think that we would have in her desperate mourning. And just happy for that, so I'm thankful for my mother. And sometimes you have to tell people the truth to make them change, to help them evolve. So that's my mother's story.
Join me as we, in the closing words, as we extend we extinguish the flame of our chalice with the blessings of our mothers upon us, and the power of her love directing us. And may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in, this day forth, until we meet again. Go in peace.
Did everybody sign the sheet for Ann's house, the potluck? Did everybody get to? Everybody?